episode.
Yep.
Today, we're going to be talking about mindfulness. Here at Akashic Resources, our goal is to
Aid you to use your minds more productively to be happier, healthier, and
more
successful.
I think
Whatever
we're
that
getting,
means to you,
we're getting
So,
that a little bit better. We're getting better at that.
we are.
We're becoming more mindful.
Right, right. So what is mindfulness? That's the I just looked up a bunch of definitions and guess what? They're all different. So what do you think mindfulness is?
Well, I think about now I can't see that. Can't stop seeing that wolf behind me.
Yeah, I
Talk
still
about
don't see
mindfulness.
it.
Inside joke. I was paying attention to the symbol behind me.
So attention's a big part of it.
Attention, yeah. So attention. When I think about the word mindfulness, an image comes in my mind, I guess, and I think my mind works in images of a fullness, or thinking of bringing all of myself, my full mind, when I think about my full attention, filling it up more. So if I just walk in, let's say I watch this, and this is Brian's complaint of me, actually. Maybe I walk into the room and I just walk over something or knock someone out, whatever. I'm probably not fully there. I'm somewhere else, right? Part of me is here, and then let's say I just walk in the room and I really pay attention. I look at the colors and I notice all the people, and I typically won't bump into people because I'll actually maybe see them. I won't knock Brian out, right? I'm more there. I'm seeing more. I'm using my five senses. Maybe I'm looking at I'm smelling, or I'm touching, I'm feeling, I'm seeing, I'm more. There's moreness.
Yeah,
so that's what I think of mindfulness.
Yeah. So attention, you bring up some good points. When our attention is scattered, right, then that's actually what causes anxiety, is because I've got a little bit here, a little bit there. I'm in the future, I'm in the past, I'm worrying about this, I'm worrying about that. I got a whole list of things, and my attention is scattered. So think about light. When light is scattered, it has like a light bulb. The light is scattered all over the place. And it's good for lighting up a room. However, when you focus that attention, when you focus that light, it's like a laser beam, and it becomes extraordinarily powerful.
It's like the attention.
Yeah, you bring all of your attention, boom, into the present moment.
Yeah, I think too, with the podcast that the reason we're doing this is it's inspired by a podcast that we both listen to. By Jordan Peterson had a podcast. On his episode, he had a woman she was 76.
76. It's a
wish
former
I could remember
colleague.
her name.
Yeah, she's written several books on mindfulness, and she's pioneered a lot of this work. And
former colleague in Harvard, and she's actually still
she's
teaching
still
there, and she was the first woman to be
tenured
there. And so she's kind of like the mother of mindfulness, or that's how he introduced her. And so she's a really interesting lady, and she was talking about mindfulness, and she had a really specific story. And that's when she said pretty much her whole life changed after this experience of, she was at the races she would like to go. She used to like to go watch horses race. Maybe she still does. I don't know, I'm making that part up. And there was a guy, it was like, it's funny how we make stuff up when we receive input. And again, being mindful is being very factual and in the present moment. And that's a good point about facts. So this guy comes up to her and says, can you watch my horse? I'm going to go get him a hot dog. And she goes, yeah, sure. And then she's like, wait, horses don't eat meat. Horses they're herbivores. And so she was just like off put by it. And then he came back, and sure enough, he ate the hot dog.
The horse ate
the horse. Yeah, not the guy. Yeah. That would be.
That's attention to detail there. So
yeah, that would be silly. So anyway, he ate the hot dog, and it changed her forevermore, because she said, wow, maybe what I think is true isn't as true as I think it is. And I shouldn't always just take everything for what it is. I should give it more attention and receive more from it. And I guess she's in education. Well, she is in education, and she does some stuff for children too. And one of her things that she brings up is when they teach them colors, even, which I don't know about this, but that's her method, is like this. We think this is the color green. This is something around that, where it's not like we're giving them more room to receive more about maybe that color or that experience. So it's not just like, these are the facts, these are the rules.
Right. And I think the point was that we have these preconceived notions that there's only so many colors, when in actuality,
that's what
it gets, we've got these little kids plates that are kind of a yellowy green color. I would say it's more yellow. However, my son Aiden in particular, it's green. To him, it's green. but it's on that gradient between yellow and green. And how many colors are in between yellow and green?
I don't know.
Infinite
A lot.
number, infinite number. So, but what she was talking about, these preconceived notions. So when we go into a situation and we say horses don't eat meat, or we say, it's always this or it's always that, there's no room for a different experience, and there's no room for learning, there's no room for growth. And when we approach it from this point of saying,
Preconception.
it's like this a lot of the time, but maybe not every time. Or it opens up to what do I not know or understand about color? And that would be a lot. I'm not a color expert. There's tone and there's these intent, there's different ways that you can describe colors. And so there's always something more to learn when we're mindful.
And I think that reminds me with she was saying another thing that she said that she was very bold about it. She was saying we should be mindful all the time. I don't think there's any time we shouldn't be.
Mhm.
And Jordan was kind of like questioning her on that. Like, well, what about when you're going to sleep? And so she was like, that's semantics and all this stuff. And another thing that came up for me is she said we should be mindful all the time because there's always more to learn and experience. I thought about relationships and how it's really easy, especially if you're with someone for a long time or you just know someone, whether it's a friend or not, or just someone you have some ideas about that person, and then you project your thoughts, your ideas of who they are onto them. It's normal to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes we're not really present with how they've changed or how they've been different. So maybe there's a friend that's always late, and you in your head think they're always late. That's who they are. And then what happens? Typically, with you at least, they're always late. But if you just change that and you just kind of look at it with more attention and have, I guess, more of a new look at it differently all the time with mindfulness. I think mindfulness is awe. Like when you go on vacation, right? You're not going to be like, I should pay attention. You're in the Smoky Mountains. You're paying attention.
It's automatic.
You love it.
When you're in a new situation, you automatically pay more attention. When you go into a situation that you've been in before, it's easier to bring these preconceived
ideas back.
Right.
And that's why kids are so great. They're always like, wow, and they're in the present moment.
Yeah.
So in a relationship like with you and I, sometimes I've noticed like I'll be expecting you to be a certain way, even though you're not that way, but I'm kind of projecting that instead of going into it fresh, right? The past is the past. You've decided to be different, and seeing you differently, and me seeing you differently actually helps you change and helps me change. So I think that mindfulness is all of those things. I don't even think it has, I mean, you said you looked up some definitions.
Yeah. And they typically use the word attention. So it's mindfulness would be bringing more of your attention or all of your attention into the present moment to what's actually happening. And that's huge because most of us are not in the present moment all that much, or we have part of ourselves in the present moment, especially if you've got a boring job. A lot of people are partly in the present moment with their job, and then they're partly in the future and partly in the past and partly in Hawaii and partly everywhere. And that's not always a bad thing necessarily. However, the more that we are present and mindful, we become much more efficient, we're higher productivity, more satisfaction.
There's more fulfillment
because
there's more mindfulness. So you're
giving
more, you're receiving more.
So you could say mindfulness is paying attention or being present with whatever's happening right now. And then you can bring in words like curiosity, objectivity, things like that, because when we're curious and objective, we're not bringing those preconceived ideas and thoughts into the present moment. We're always there to receive what's new. And the reality is that everything is always changing. So we're never actually in the same situation twice, even though it seems like it. But we have choice, we have free will. And in every instance, no matter how repetitive what we're doing is, it's a new situation with a new opportunity for us to make a different choice.
And a new experience.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us into the why of,
why would you
what
want
is
to be
mindfulness?
mindful?
Why would you, why not just go and be habitual? And well, there is, for all the reasons we just stated, and even more reasons. In psychology, they talk about, and at our work, we talk about this growth mindset, to have a growth mindset in the things that you're approaching, which is really the idea that you're learning, you're growing. And what's the benefit of having a growth mindset versus not? I mean, simple, but what is the benefit?
Well, I lots of things. Number one, I'd say that if we're learning and growing and changing, we tend to be happier. We tend to be more fulfilled. Since you brought up work, I would say if you're more mindful at work, you're probably going to do a better job. If you do
Less
a better
mistakes,
job, you might get a promotion. You're probably going to get a raise.
And at the end of the day, you'll be more fulfilled.
Right, exactly.
Because I think it was a Jim Rohn that was saying about, like, if you don't like your job, you shouldn't do less, you should do more. You should give more so that you find more fulfillment in it, and ideally transform some things inside of yourself that you might be able to create a different situation for yourself. So that's a benefit of mindfulness. I think when it comes to health of the body, there's huge, I mean, even just, I'm recently noticing, ever since we've gone to infrared sauna. So going in there, it's easier for me to be more present, and I'm noticing places in my body and just giving attention and breathing into that. I've found that there's some relief. But also, if I'm aware of the way I'm walking and the way I'm holding my body, I'm not going to injure it as much.
Oh yeah, right.
If I'm, if I'm not mindful, I might sit like this, which is a problem that I have. But with mindfulness, I go, oh, I'm going to sit up straight. Or with illness in the body, a lot of times our thoughts about the illness in itself creates more of the illness. And so mindfulness is giving more light, more attention to the body.
And maybe being more mindful about what we eat, or being more mindful about our exercise. When we start to connect these things together, and the true nature of reality is connectedness. And the more mindful we are, guess what? You see the connection. So when you see more connections, now you understand cause and effect. You're not a victim anymore. Now you're a creator, and you have the ability to change your experience.
That's a really good point when it comes to like food, especially for those of us that love to eat. Just being aware of, like, why am I eating this? Like, what's, like, when I'm practicing that present moment, like yesterday at work, there's a lot of snacks there and they're very tempting. It's very challenging, and they're very close by too. And so it's like I was walking over there, and then I was breathing while I was walking over there. So by the time I would get there, I was really present, and I was like, why am I here? I don't even know. And I realized in the moment there was a problem I couldn't figure out with something I was working on, and the other people that could help me were busy. And I was like, ah. And I went unconscious and went to go for a snack. And then when I was breathing, I brought myself back, and I was like, oh, I'm actually really upset that I can't figure this out, and I'm trying to distract myself. So instead I got a cup of hot tea. And then by then someone was able to help me, and I was good to go. So there's, just so many benefits.
I've got a little story here. So
story time.
I had a student in Chicago, and this was an older lady. She was retired. She did some volunteer work, but she really had a lot of time on her hands. And she joined our class, and every single night of class, she lost her cell phone and her car keys. And it was just unbelievable to me. I rarely lose anything.
Maybe I should practice mindfulness. I might lose less stuff.
Right. So this was fascinating. So we all, every week after class, the students in our class would just fan out, and we'd try to find her phone and her keys. And they a lot of times weren't together. Sometimes they were still in her car. Sometimes, we found these things everywhere. So we started doing attention exercises and concentration exercises. And within 3 weeks, now I will say that this woman was very disciplined. She did this exercise every day for 10 minutes. And after 3 weeks, it was unbelievable. She never lost anything again. So the other thing she lost was her debit card. Now, she didn't lose that at our school because she paid cash and we didn't take debit cards. However, it was her keys, her phone, and her debit card. And she started to not lose anything at all. It was so dramatic that her family called on the phone. Two separate instances where a member of her family called on the phone and wanted to know what had happened. This woman had lost things for decades. Everyone, this was part of her. You talk about seeing someone, this was just who she was, you know. And so when she showed up different, people just
They
freaked
were
out.
confused.
They were like, what happened to you? What's going on here? You know,
Mhm.
and it's just the function of attention. So when we're present in the moment, I know that I set my phone down right here because I was there. I was present. So I can recall if I walk away and I go, where's my phone? I can call that image up because I was 100% or very close.
You were there.
Yeah, I was present in the moment. So how important is that? What about relationships and attention? Right?
No, not
Kids.
yes, definitely.
So kids love your attention and they know immediately when you're not fully there and they let you know, don't they?
Now,
And
especially now that they're getting a little bit older, for us, 3
Yeah.
and 4,
yeah.
they will know when we're not paying attention.
Or even somebody that's on the phone. You can tell when somebody's really not present. They're either, you know, doing
They'll go,
something else.
"Uh-huh."
Yeah, and they're not present. How do we feel when other people are not present with us? They're not being mindful. They're not giving us their full attention.
Yeah,
So,
or how do I think too, to myself, when I'm just giving myself more attention, I just feel better. I
Mhm.
feel more connected, feel more alive. I feel more life force moving through me. We definitely need to do a podcast on the quantum field, and just like a little plug for that, look for that. But I was telling someone the other day, I've been really mindful of getting on Facebook and Instagram, and if I do, it's very like I'm going in there to look at something and get out, and I try to like give myself that because I can get really lost.
Mhm.
And I found that I can access more of the quantum field,
Mhm.
more of the unmanifest, the higher energies when I'm not kind of tapped in like that, because more of my attention is in the present moment. Whereas when I'm like kind of on my phone and kind of here, then like my attention is split, so I'm not present.
Part-time manifester.
Part-time, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have been manifesting a lot quicker,
Mhm.
I've noticed, and things are coming easier and more fluidly because I've kind of created those boundaries of mindfulness for myself. And I'm not saying people should get off of social media. I'm just saying
No, be mindful.
be mindful in anything you do. It's just benefits of
Right.
mindfulness.
Another thing I just thought of was when we're being mindful and it's much easier for us to see why things are happening and to connect that with purpose, our purpose in life, our mission for this lifetime. We can connect that to our dharma. We can even recognize karma. When we're present in the moment and being mindful, we can see more clearly when maybe some of those shadow parts of self or some of those
Challenges,
habitual things that we do come back
triggers.
up, right? The defensiveness, or that's a big one for me is, and you know, so when we're present in the moment, we don't react as much as we have the ability to respond.
Mhm.
So
All these great. So
Yeah.
then
how do we do it?
how do you be mindful other than what we've just said?
Mhm.
I think that it's easy to throw that word around, but
Yeah, it is.
in practice, how do you do it?
Yeah. Well, we talked about attention. So a good way to bring yourself to the present moment and ask yourself, where's your attention, is to take a conscious breath. So the breath is something that we do unconsciously most of the day, luckily, because we would probably not live if we were dependent upon conscious breaths. It would change our lives
Or
completely.
habitual,
But it's the easiest thing that we're unconscious of or doing unconsciously that we can immediately stop, and we can do it mindfully or consciously. And when we take a deep breath consciously, it brings us to the present moment. I like to say it's like rebooting the computer or shaking the etch and sketch. If you remember what an etch and sketch is, it clears everything, and you're able to kind of drop into the present moment and where you are with a different perspective. So that's an easy way is breath that will bring your attention. And then you can even ask yourself, where is my attention? And you can say, wow, I was in the past, or wow, I was in this imagined future that's not good. Because we spend a lot of time imagining what? Fears, anxieties, things like that. So if we can bring our attention to the present moment and stop ourselves and ask us, what am I doing and why am I doing it? I mean, that's huge.
and just observe, instead of going into it, observing it with our attention. Again, I think attention's like the It's the star of the show when it comes to mindfulness.
Yeah.
And then I think with that, some other things that you could do is just tactically, tactile, right? So like touching something, touching your body, or grounding yourself, sitting on the floor and maybe doing a few stretches, breathing. We talked about breathing, smelling the environment around you, or looking, paying attention to the colors, all of those things. Just you see more too. And because you're seeing more, your attention is not anywhere else. It's right here seeing what you're seeing. And it helps to be more mindful.
Right. And so we talked about how easy it is to be mindful in a brand new environment. You go to the Grand Canyon, wow, it's easy to be
You don't
mindful,
have to force
right? Because you're in the state
seeing
of
things that are
and
different.
curiosity. It's when we're in that same situation over and over again. So another little story. I started doing yoga back in 2007. And there was a 4-way stop right by the house that I lived in that I had been through hundreds and hundreds of times. And one day after taking yoga for about a month or several weeks and bringing myself just automatically into the present moment more, I was also driving around in silence. I practiced not listening to the radio. And I pull up to this 4-way stop, and all of a sudden, my attention went to this giant tree. And I was like, oh my God, how old is that tree? It must be like 200 years old. I mean, it's so big. And I had never noticed the tree before. And yet here I am in a very familiar situation. But through these practices, I was able to receive something new in a very common situation. And I always remember that. It's like, how did I not see that tree? I love trees. And it's because I was never in the present moment. Why? This was a bad stop sign. You had to wait and wait and wait to get there. And I was probably anxious. I was probably, I got to get home, or I got to get away from here, or whatever.
Whatever you were trying to get away with from really whatever you were experiencing in the present moment. And that's a really good point too with mindfulness is just when you do pay attention, you might notice, oh, why am I not in the present moment? And you might notice, oh, I'm actually like worried about something, or I'm anxious, or I'm fearful. And so rather than being like, oh, I'm just going to distract myself with something else, just pay more attention to that, to the thing that's actually present, whether it's fear or frustration or anger or worry or a stomach ache, whatever, pay more attention to that. And that will help you clear and really heal yourself in the moment sometimes. As well. I've noticed, well, I've known this, but I go through these periods of like really working on the body, and recently I've been doing wall Pilates and yoga, and I notice my confidence level increases because I'm standing up straighter. And when I sit up straight and I pull my abdominal muscles in, I really think differently. I absolutely think differently than when I sit like this.
Yeah, probably more energy coming through.
And I just feel like I feel less
coming through the spine.
Like my self-esteem is lower. I go into the thought form of like, I'm not good enough. But like when I sit up straight, I'm like, I'm Golbhar. And like, I'm just like someone else. I'm not someone else, I'm my real self. So again, that's how do you become mindful? By practicing too. It's just like setting it's like we can tell you be mindful and cool. But if you set an intention, I'm going to practice mindfulness today, and you put little things around that can help you, maybe affirmations on your wall or reminders on your phone, all these little things, then you start to practice and it just becomes part of who you are as a person. You don't have to work at it. It's like there. Well, you still have to mindfully work towards it, but it's anyway.
So yeah, that's a good technique. Is you can take little stickers, you can put a little bracelet on and then switch hands with it. And one of the things I did was I have my Carmex in my right pocket, which it is in my right pocket right now. So I've carried this stuff forever. So for a while, what I did is I put this in my left pocket. And if I was mindful and present, before I reached for it, I would remember it was in my left pocket. So it was kind of a test for me. I like to play these little games. But another thing is I would put stickers like on the mirror and things, or I would put something in a place where it doesn't belong, which in my universe, that's just craziness. I mean, I just like, whoa. So I would see something in the wrong place, and I would have this reaction, but then I would wake up and I'd go, oh yeah, I put that there to remind me to be present in the moment.
That's great. Well, that works for you. Maybe that's for people that are very specific.
Right.
But if you're not, then you
A
shouldn't.
lot of Virgo in
The
my chart.
opposite should be, I put this here every day. But another thing that remind me of is in the book, can't remember the name of the book, How to Build Good Habits. One of the exercises that he gives, it's a well-known book, I can't remember it.
Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of
No,
Success.
it's another one
Okay.
about habits. Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
He talks about first, before you do any other change, is you keep a log of your routine, your habits. What are your habits? What are the things you do? And you literally go through your day and you write them down as you do them. And then you do it for like a couple of days or even like a week. And you start to notice your habits. And then you can decide, okay, which are the habits that
Wanna keep, right.
which one do I? So again, you're being mindful by writing it down and then going, oh, every morning I wake up, and I actually realize this, every morning I wake up and I look at my phone. And then I did that like for a few mornings. I'm like, I actually don't want to do that. I don't want to look at my phone in the morning. So I mindfully created a habit of 1 hour before I look at my phone. And I really have kept that. It's easy to keep it once you do it.
Yeah. So mindfulness is the opposite of being habitual.
Basically.
That could be a potential. And I want to say intention with attention is part of mindfulness.
And here's the funny part. It's the paradox that in the podcast this woman was talking about, is when you do practice mindfulness, because the way the brain works, it habitualizes, it's designed to be habitual. Eventually, it will create habits. And then you still need to continue to practice mindfulness. And Jordan Peterson was like, well, don't you think that's just a paradox? Like, then we can never really be mindful because we're always habitual. And she was like, oh, I don't care if it's a paradox. It might be a paradox. The point is that mindfulness always helps you, and your brain is also habitual, and they work kind of
so
together.
It helps
Maybe
you.
it's not a paradox.
No,
I don't know.
I see it perfectly. So the habitual nature of the brain provides the constant opportunity to be mindful. And by being mindful, we learn and grow. So the whole point of being here,
you should have been on that
brings us back to purpose, is to learn and grow. So if we're in situations where we're not learning and growing, guess what? We're wasting time. So mindfulness can be in activity, it can be in inactivity. It's just the being present and mindful, having purpose, having attention and intention. So what other things can we do? So attention exercises lead us to concentration exercises. So concentration is putting your attention on one thing for as long as you desire. So it's holding that attention. And another thing is meditation. Meditation is a specific form of concentration. And that's concentration on, for most people, it's concentration on God, on our higher self, on a higher intention, desire. And that's kind of like prayer. Prayer is also a way of having a higher thought form that we can focus our attention on. And prayer, guess what? Helps us to be mindful.
All great things.
Yeah. So we teach all these things because metaphysics has changed our lives, and we put together classes. And one of actually our favorite class, our most popular class, is Mind Mastery. And it was created not like the other classes. The other classes were like, I want to write this class, and I would write it. Or she would say, let's do a class on this, and we would do it. Mind Mastery came about from all the questions, desires, and needs that people communicated to us. So we put together a class that helps people develop their conscious minds by attention, concentration, memory, really hone the conscious mind to be the best it can be, and then help you come into subconscious mind through meditation, developing your intuition, and working with your nighttime dreams.
And we are working on My Mastery. This is My Mastery 101. However, obviously it's 101 for a reason. We're working on My Mastery 102 and a continuation of the work. So the cool thing about our classes as well is that once you take it, you are grandfathered in. You're basically not that's not the right word. You can take the class as many times as you want.
For free.
Free.
We offer this class at least 2 or 3 times a year because it's so popular. And once you pay for it, then you get to take that class over and over again as many times as you want. And that's a wonderful thing because we've got new people coming in. We've got people that have taken it once before, sometimes twice before. And then so we've got students in the class having deep insights that are helping other people. And it makes a wonderful, wonderful environment for growth. So,
and mindfulness.
yeah. Well, if you've got an idea for a podcast or any comments or anything, please reach out to us and let us know. And as always, have a great day.
Yes, and please like and subscribe if this is your first time listening to this.
Thank you very much. Bye.